The topic is mo money, mo problems. Feel free to send over the comments over to Say Reed over at sayreedmedia.com. Oh man. So this particular episode of WP Water Cooler is brought to you by ServerPress, makers of desktop server. Go over to their website over at serverpress.com where you can learn how you can do some local WordPress website development and be able to push those out to your web host of choice and be able to do all your development locally over at serverpress.com. All right, let's get everyone introduced. Let's start with, Russ. Russ, what's up, Russ? How's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going? Long-time listener, first-time caller. How's it going? I'm Russ Laren. WordCamp Vegas was a couple weeks, and I missed you guys, so I wanted to come back and say hi. Howdy.
Awesome. Good to have you on again. How about you, Cosper? Tell us about yourself.
Hey, everybody. Jason Cosper, a.k.a. Fat Mullenweg. Now, tell me now who's hot, who's not. Mo money, mo problems, right? Let's get into it this week.
Wait, is that hot or not? Do you guys remember hot or not?
Oh, man.
It was a long time ago, but it was a thing.
I was at a 42 and I had thumbs down. Is all that's where I was.
Was it the Zuckerberg's first website, right?
No.
It might as well have been, but yeah, Manny, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Manny, a WordPress developer based here in Las Vegas, one of the co-organizers of WordCamp Las Vegas 2019, together with Russ. And we already starting plans for the next year. And actually, we also have some news here in Las Vegas. Next month, we're going to start a chapter of our WordPress meetup for developers, which will be cool too.
Nice.
Another meetup.
Yep.
Coders. We're slowly catching up to OC.
Mo money, no problems.
Yeah, that's right.
How about you, Say? Tell us about yourself.
Oh, hey, I'm Say. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress, ads, I read media, all the things. Still doing it. Still rocking that.
How about you, Jonathan?
Jonathan Wold. I love talking about WordPress. I'm looking forward to WordCamp Long Beach in a couple weeks here. It'll be a good time.
That should be a
good time. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog, and I do this show as well as WP Blab, so feel free to go take a look at that over at WPwatercooler.com/WP I do want to tell you one thing, and I want to tell this at the beginning before, towards the end, people start, bailing out. And I want to let you know that we're doing one of those feedback things like I did last year, and I got a lot of really good feedback, and I implemented a lot of them, and I wanted to see if I can have you guys do that again. So if you go to WPwatercooler.com/feedback, you can leave a little bit of feedback for us. I'll be sharing it with all the panelists as well as all the past panelists, so they'll know what's going on, and hopefully I'll help them out with figuring out what we should do on this show. So, do you have any opinions? We'd love to have it.
Did you say that's WPwatercooler.com/feedback?
That would be WPwatercooler.com/feedback.
Oh, cool.
I can't wait to see what people say on WPwatercooler.com/feedback. I mean, I can totally wait. That's cool. Sometimes you ask for feedback, you get it.
That's true, and I did last time, and it was fun. So let's talk about more money, more problems.
More money, more problems.
So we had recent announcements. Oh, and I have WP Blab's logo showing up on the corner there. Let's fix that. You don't
even know. It's too early.
Yeah, I don't even know. It's too early.
It's subliminal messaging is what it is.
Let's just change everything. Why not? Let's just change it all.
Your favorite show, Jason. We know.
I know. So let's talk about the recent announcements that were going on in WordPress. Who wants to take on the first one?
We got that Series D in the house.
So Salesforce slipped Automattic the D with some funding, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why that was not like the title on Twitter. I don't know why nobody shared that. Cosper, you should make that happen.
Well, that's what this show is for. That's what we show for those special jobs.
So I don't know if you guys know, I'm live in the bank vault. The money's like right over there. Like I saw it happen.
So basically, look there it is. We were debating whether they raised $3 billion, but basically, this is Automattic. I like to, like, even within this group, everyone's like, WordPress raised. I'm like, y'all, come on, we got to keep it together here. WordPress didn't raise this money. Automattic raised this money. Automattic is a bigger company than just WordPress.com, and that is important to remember because, especially now that Automattic owns Tumblr, it ain't just WordPress.com. So there's a lot more to that than just WordPress.com. Hopefully, a lot of that is WordPress.com. But anyway, Automattic raised $300 million in a Series D, all from Salesforce.
I think this is a big deal for a lot of reasons. I like
from
ahead.
Salesforce's investment branch.
Right.
So let's be clear that Salesforce just didn't acquire $300 million worth of whatever.
I mean, their platform could have raised the money. That's what Salesforce is all about.
The people who made all their money off of Salesforce have invested in Automattic, which, hey, Salesforce is kind of a thing. I don't
know. Jonathan, you said you're excited?
Well, there's two things that I think are particularly interesting about this. I think Krogsgaard did a really good job of covering some of like a take on the motivations. And there's a lot of general alignment with, it's interesting that Matt in his post about it mentioned VIP and the sort of general alignment with WordPress and the enterprise and Salesforce. For me, I also, one of in the interview that Matt did for TechCrunch, I love the reference to, again, him talking about building the operating system of the web. And
happens to be, I want to plug here real quick, happens to be the topic of Mr. Jonathan Wolf's talk at the Future of WordPress at WordCamp Long Beach, opening Sunday track. Okay, sorry, plug.
I'm excited about that. So I think this is probably mostly focused. I mean, it's mostly focused on the enterprise, but for me, it's also another indicator of just that idea continuing to develop. And obviously, Salesforce, they have a long history in software as a service, and a lot of that operating system thinking, at least from my perspective, is rooted in a lot of what they've built over the years. So I think it's a good sign for a lot of different reasons.
I mean, the fact that, honestly, successful funding Series I, they're always a good sign for that company. I mean, in general, it means that, someone, it's just like when you get a loan or whatever, someone is willing to take that bet. That's a pretty big bet, right? Like, maybe not in terms of risk, but in terms of money, being a full thing there. So the fact that, a well-known established fund is willing to do that is a real vote of confidence for Automattic, which will, I hate to use the whole concept of trickle down.
What's the halo effect? There's a halo effect.
You know what? Halo effect is a way better term than trickle down. This is way better. But yeah, so like the fact that they're willing to take that, and that I think this was the first time that they have taken money since, was it 2014?
I think that sounds about right. It's been a while.
That's a long time, and the fact that Automattic has been so selective with that, they're be able to put more people into volunteering to build Gutenberg quicker and faster. Well,
it's interesting that Matt,
formerly known as Gutenberg,
all that Matt said about it. I mean, one of the highlights, rather, of what he said about it is that this is more about acceleration. He doesn't expect any significant changes to Automattic's roadmap. What they thought they can do in 10 years, they can hopefully now do in 5.
Which, to be honest, is really important, because
very important.
Taking the length of time that the development took to even get to where we're at with the block editor, honestly, it's kind of behind the times.
It is.
And that has caused the problems for the competition to come up and make those, bridge that gap. And so the 10 years that it could take for open source to move everything along, if they're able to put more people on that team and advance that further, then that's good for all of us. Honestly.
What was the valuation in 2014? You guys remember?
What was the valuation then? I don't remember that.
I think it was like
Google it. that Google will know. I promise.
I think it was 1 billion. To go from 1 billion to 3 billion in 4 years. It's a big thing, and I think
5 years, but okay.
Yeah, 1.6 billion was according.
So it doubled.
1.16. I misread it. So just over 1 billion.
What do you guys think about this idea of him stating that it was building the operating system of the web? What do you guys think of that? For years on WaterCooler, we've been talking about like headless WordPress installations and that sort of thing, which would essentially be like the operating system of the web if you're doing that. But more and more things are becoming serverless. More and more things are using, you got GraphQL, you got all these other things that are happening that I don't know if they're as popular or not, or they're just not being talked about as much. But when you have something like WordPress, where every blog that doesn't pay for a domain name that's on WordPress.com has a WordPress.com at the end of it, it makes sense that everyone's using WordPress. But it's like the rest of these technologies require you to, be someone in the know to be able to use it. So the operating system of the web, it kind of sounds, plausible, at least because of just what percentage of the web WordPress is running on.
I feel like if you own a third, or like we keep saying it's 33% of the internet, I feel like you can make that kind of statement, like, this is our goal, but it's more of a motto than, like the end thing. But I do think that there's tons of people out there that are building WordPress, micro, major, large, niche, and authority websites, and I think like they continue to grow, and especially with somebody like Salesforce adding their knowledge behind WordPress, it's going to keep growing, and I don't see why we couldn't make it the operating system of the web. But I mean, Ruby's still good, Python's great, jQuery's great. Like, it's not the language, but an operating system, I'd go with that. I'd wear a t-shirt that said that.
For the record, it's not just, I think you're talking about the operating system of the web being a tagline, but as of right this minute, the W3 Tech's, percentage that they're given is 34.6. So that is above a third of the web.
Yeah.
And that's the whole web, not just the operating systems or not just the CMS, because that's 61.3, that's almost 2/3 of all of the content management system. So, I do a lot of talks where I tell people this, like, why WordPress? And I'm like, at the end of the day, those numbers are inescapable. Like, you're going to have sites that are in this. You know what I mean? As much as it seems like Squarespace is dominating the market with podcasts marketing, and Wix is like, throwing up the ads on Google or whatever the hell. But like, in terms of actual use, like, it's still WordPress.
Not only that, but I want to say that like there's more people showing up that want to learn to know WordPress. Like, we're seeing a huge wave of beginners. Like, still, like, this beginner wave is still coming in, and like there's like, when you tell somebody that you can just add WP-admin to the end of any.com and see if it's WordPress, like, they will. I did that when somebody showed me that for like a week. Like, that's all that I did. I just locked myself in a hole, and I was just like, Orange County Choppers, WordPress site, like, this site, like, I did it all. When you show somebody that, they just start scouring the internet, like, they see the big picture, and like, I think they're hooked with WordPress.
Yeah. Going back to the $300 million, I have a question for you guys. What do you guys think is going to be the impact in the foundation, or if any of this investment, is there going to be anything that is going to foundation? Yeah, if they're going to upgrade, to GitHub instead of
No, I don't think you're going to see much change. I mean, I think it is more about the signals, the vote of confidence. I mean, there's certainly the details aren't public, and I certainly don't know. Like, Automattic is profitable. We don't know how much, but it's not like they needed the money so much as it was welcome. They
need the money, like, so a business who is expanding needs the money.
Yes, exactly.
You're expanding, and you need the money because you're going to this next level, and you need to bridge that gap. Like, that is, so there's a sense of needing the money there, because you can't grow unless you have the cash in pocket to do that, right? Even though,
as far as like the foundation stuff, though, at least from an outside perspective, I feel like it's very business as usual. This is just about accelerating what's happening. So, I
think in terms of acceleration, I think that there will probably be some more people added on to the teams that are volunteered out to the WordPress project.
5% for the future.
Yeah, like that's probably going to get upped because the more people who are dedicated to working on that, regardless of who they work for, I mean, that's a whole controversial topic, but regardless of who they work for, if you've got 2 more full-time people working on the code base, that's going to accelerate the project and you're going to be able to take up different components that you haven't been. So the fact that I honestly feel that like the code base of WordPress right now, since the Gutenberg hump has gotten over, like that freeze, I feel like that's
I was just listening to that song the other day, the Gutenberg hump.
I think that it has really accelerated. Like like 5.3, the stuff that's coming out, which is like the beta's out like next week or something. Like that stuff's moving quick, and there's it's not like these are dinky releases.
Yeah.
So if we add more, if they're adding more people to that, and look at it's not GoDaddy, Bluehost, DreamHost, all of these people are all putting in money to this. Everyone's kind of doubling down on this. So it's WordPress WordPress.com and Automattic aren't the only people who are putting money into this on the enterprise level or on the consumer level.
Well, I mean, I just want to add too that I mean, like, we had Calypso. Do you remember Calypso? Like the whole app and stuff. Like that was the big thing in getting over. And like, who Squarespace or Wix? Somebody like made their app using that or something. I mean, like we keep seeing companies copying this. So I feel like Salesforce is saying instead of doing that, like let's partner with them and like let's get more integrations in there. Let's make it easier. Like setting up WooCommerce and going to Salesforce. I mean, we haven't even talked about that yet. But like that's a common kind of web you're gonna weave anyway. But I mean, hopefully if it gets better, I'm all for like saying go use Salesforce. Like I still am, but I think I'd be a bigger advocate once it's more hands-on. Like once 2 years, I give it 2 years. Once they see what WordPress does, what the users do, and how they use it, I think Squarespace is gonna be beefier and better. Like
Squarespace is gonna be beefier and better.
No, I'm sorry, Salesforce. They all start with an S, man, except Wix. But I think Salesforce using our code base or using our users to test. I mean, it's great. Like that's what I love about the open source, and I think they do too.
Do you guys think the plan is to go public someday, Automattic?
A lot of people say that, but in Matt's interview, he specifically said about the Automattic team, he can't wait to work next to the 800 people or 1,500 people that he's going to be working with for the next 15 years. And that doesn't sound to me like someone who's like trying to go public and lose that hierarchy situation that's there. Yeah. That's just inferring from that, but like
Airbnb, I think Airbnb is going to go public before WordPress because they have it slated for next year or something like that. So yeah, I think it's going to be a while
before WordPress.
Yeah,
I think the one thing we need to the one thing we need to keep remembering here in this is that this is something that Automattic is getting. This is something that WordPress the project is getting. Like that WordPress the project is a totally separate everything. When you're looking at even like you go on TechCrunch's website, Verizon pays WordPress VIP to have that hosting and have that website infrastructure in place. That's what's benefiting this. All the folks that are building cat blogs and building different WooCommerce sites and building all these things that are, us using WordPress.com, the project, and using that code base. That's not what's benefiting this. If anything, it's putting the word out that Automattic exists. It puts the word out that something called WordPress exists, but it doesn't. It doesn't show that like we've always told our customers that you're using a product, something called WordPress that builds your website. WordPress isn't supposed to be the focus of the project. It's a focus for us because that's what we chose as our operating system of the web. But when it comes to the product itself, the customer doesn't really care what you're using. They just want to use whatever's the best and whatever works really well. And that's it.
They care once they can't do a thing. So
totally. On both ways though. But it's on both ways though. So like if you're using Wix or Weebly or any of those types of things, you hit a limitation wall at some point. And when you hit that limitation wall, then you go like, okay, I need to find something else. And then you go and talk to somebody who does Drupal, who does WordPress, who does, any of those sorts of things. And then you go to talk to them. And then at some point their developer abandons them. And now they're stuck with something that doesn't work again. So it's like WordPress itself WordPress is the technology that we, the nerds, use, but it's not something that the general public is using and really getting excited about and hoping that they get that t-shirt that says WordPress on it.
But I honestly don't think that's true in terms of GoDaddy and Bluehost and DreamHost and all of the hosts, WP Engine, who are using the core version of WordPress, not the WordPress.com, kind of amended version of WordPress. Although there are a lot of folks out there in hosting, I can't remember who they're.
Yeah.
But they for example,
InMotion.
Is it InMotion? I don't know who it is. Anyway, there are other hosting companies who change the dashboard, who do different things with what you're able to see. So they are kind of changing the core version of WordPress. But all of those companies do use that core version of WordPress, and they are pushing that in terms of marketing, and they are pushing that in terms, I see ads in my feeds for WordPress from GoDaddy, right? That's not from WordPress.com. That's not from WordPress, the project. That's GoDaddy putting marketing dollars into promoting their managed WordPress hosting.
Don't forget on .com with the business plan, I expect to see that open up more over time. You can install plugins now. There's, you're going to always have that sort of streamlined, separated version, I imagine, on .com, but I expect over time for there to be more alignment rather than less with the broader WordPress ecosystem in terms of plugins and themes.
You can also use your dashboard on WordPress.com. So it's not gone. It's not that it's not there. It just has a layer on top of it, which is what a lot of, it's essentially like your hosting dashboard, which is like logging into your user portal of WP Engine or your GoDaddy hosting, whatever the hell they call that now, customer land.
I think what this one of the just general senses that I have about WordPress is that we're still in the early days, which seems kind of strange for
That's
15
a revolutionary statement.
But I feel like it's still early, and not even so much you have this percentage of the web thing that will continue to grow. Just based on current trajectory, we're on a clear path to 40-50%. But I don't think that's so much where all the potential is going to be. For me, seeing new people coming in is one of the biggest positive indicators. And with all those new people coming in, we have a host of problems that we have to work through. The onboarding experience, what does it look like? Are they succeeding with what they're trying to do? So there's, I think it's still early. I feel optimistic and positive, but I think it's continued success. It's not going anywhere for a long time, but its continued success isn't to be taken for granted. It's going to require a lot of work on a lot of different parts. Automattic is a key aspect of all this, but
I'm actually really interested in the impact. So another one of the talks that we have happening actually right after your talk, Jonathan, is a talk from Andrea Middleton, and this is at WordCamp Long Beach, October 6th, that is about the WordPress community at scale. And this is where those Mo problems come in, because as WordPress.com grows, as WordPress.org grows, as the whole community of all of this stuff, I personally have seen problems in the community growing, because it used to be this really tight-knit, cute community, and now it's kind of was a little bit sheltered from what I like to call the tech bro world, which was kind of over there, and we were this sort of sheltered little garden. But this, now we're seeing that. We're seeing those kind of attitudes come in. There's more misogyny in WordPress than I've ever seen before, and I've been around here for a long time.
It was there before. It just wasn't as visible.
You know what? It was there before, and I've been subject to that in different arenas over the course. But it was not. It's not so much that it wasn't as visible. It's that it wasn't as prevalent. Honestly, the attitudes of that stuff have really come over, and because people are oh, it used to be way more that WordPress was looked down upon by developers, was looked down upon by the tech bro, right? And that has really started to shift, because now everyone can geek out on GraphQL and Gatsby with heads and all that fun stuff, like, and they can geek out on all these different, different interpretations of different development stacks of what we have going on here. And so it's no longer just this like, oh, that's just WordPress. That's just a content management system. That doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
So as we kind of transition to, now that we're over a third of the web, as Jonathan said, we're on track to hit 40, 50%. At what point, when WordPress becomes the operating system of the web, it sounds exciting, but then you start getting into this whole monoculture thing, where you look at how Chrome is now. Like, everybody uses Chrome. So many people use Chrome. And, I use Firefox and Safari almost to kind of just to be different, just to use something other than I would hate, for as much as I make a living off of WordPress and everything else, I'd hate for it to hit 80, 90%. And I know that that's necessarily a target that they might want to hit someday.
This is part of why I think hosts matter so much, and the decentralized nature of WordPress means that there's room for flavor. There's room for variety and difference. It's not trivial, and this is also why things like governance matter. What's the future of the project going to look like? It's one thing today, but what about 5 years from now? And as that grows, I feel like the ingredients are there for there to be a healthy, like, diverse the ecosystem as a whole, which is made up of a lot of sub ecosystems. But it doesn't just happen. It requires people putting in the effort and thinking more long term. Like, where does this go versus the short term benefit? Which for me in general is one reason why I'm more a fan of companies not going public because once you do, there's a lot of benefits, but there's also this now more short-term, quarterly,
right.
Yep.
One step at a time.
It's not thinking about the length of the project and where it could go and envision. It's more about like quick turnover with the monies.
Yep.
Cosper, don't worry about it, bro. Like, Google has an API, dude. You can do Blogger, and you can become a Blogger developer and do all that stuff. So don't worry about it, man. You still have a job.
I'll finish exactly where I started. I started on Blogger. I'll end my career
on Blogger as well.
Perfect. Yeah.
I wanted to say real quick, what I was saying about Andrea Middleton's talk was that her talk is WordPress community at scale. And so, like, as the WordPress project gets bigger, the WordPress community is getting bigger, and that, introduces all these additional people, the tech bros, more beginners coming in, and having to really be able to not just onboard people to the software, but onboard people into the community and have these set standards of, what the code of conduct actually means and how that's enforced. And that is exactly where all these things of governance come in terms of, what do we want our community and our ecosystem to look like? Do we want to just give it up to, none of us want this to just be like, oh, it's just Automattic's thing. It's never going to be that. So the beauty of WordPress is the fact that we all have that stake in it, and we all have that stake in the community, and we have that ability to shape this, to shape the future of the web, to shape the future of WordPress. So the fact that there is this, that 34.6% is not just WordPress.com, right? That is WordPress, the whole thing. And that, if you took away, I don't know what the percentages are of WordPress.com versus WordPress, but if you took away the project, it wouldn't be the same thing. And like you were saying with the hosts, without GoDaddy's, chunk of people, like, it's not the same thing. So I think we have so much more possibility as a community to be involved in this, in the shape of the web. Just one more quick plug for WordCamp Long Beach. We also have an awesome talk right after Andrea Middleton's about from DreamHost, the vice president of corporate communications, someone's communications. Brett Dunst is talking about the DreamHost, subpoena that they got, and the implications of there it is. The implications on internet privacy and how WordPress is shaping that. And then we also have the implications of accessibility and how WordPress can shape that. And it's so exciting to think that we, even though we're not getting the money, right? We don't get the $300 million, but it is also a vote of confidence in WordPress as a whole. And we have the ability to shape that. Like, it can't be done without us. Like, the community is not, WordPress is not WordPress without the community. So we have a responsibility and an opportunity to participate in this in a way that normal venture capital, the normal fund situation just does not exist. Like, that's super exciting to me.
And that's it, folks. So thank you very much for coming and hanging out with us. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can subscribe to this content and all the other content that's happening over there. And also, if you want to leave some feedback, do that. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/feedback. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. See ya. Bye.
Whew.